Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lottie Presents, an interview series where we chat to incredible people doing very exciting things in the world of care. I'm Robin from Lottie, your host, and I'm delighted to be your host, but I'm even more delighted to introduce my guest today, which is Lewis Hornby, the founder of Jelly Drops. Welcome, Lewis. So just to begin, Lewis, I was wondering if you could just tell us just briefly what Jelly Drops is.
Yeah, so Jelly Drops are essentially 95% water sweets. They're sugar-free, vegan, gluten-free, and they're designed to support hydration for people living with dementia.
Nice, excellent, thank you. And to kick off this interview, I'm going to start with the most important question. What's your favourite flavour out of all these?
Yeah, for me, I'd have to say strawberry, I think.
Which one's the strawberry?
So strawberry is the red one.
Okay, nice. May I?
Yeah, please do. I think for me, it reminds me of actually my other grandma, Jean, who used to pick me up from school every Monday, and we always used to make jelly. So I think that sort of nostalgic element to eating jelly for a lot of people is also a really important factor for many living with dementia.
That's adorable. I think that's something that I resonated immediately with when I first heard of Jelly Drops and I first heard of what you guys were doing. I remember going to visit my grandfather in a care home, and he'd always give me sweets that looked exactly like this. Yeah. They were more covered in like a sort of a coating or a sugar sort of thing.
York fruits, I think.
Yes.
Some people suggest.
But that's why it resonated with me so strongly, because I was like, it's that hint of nostalgia, yet innovation, which I thought was really cool. So bravo, really cool. So I was wondering if you could tell me a bit about how Jelly Drops began. What was your inspiration behind it?
Yeah, so my grandma, Pat, my other grandma, she had dementia for about 8 years. But about 5 years in, her condition started to dramatically decline, and she was unfortunately rushed to hospital. It wasn't until she was there they realised it was severe dehydration, and thankfully after 24 hours in IV fluid, she made a full recovery and went on to enjoy a good quality of life for years after that. But it sort of highlighted the issue of dehydration and sort of the severe impact it had on grandma's quality of life. So I wanted to try and help, basically. So started speaking with dementia psychologists, spent quite a lot of time in her care home, and eventually came up with Jelly Drops.
That's amazing. So you were literally on the ground working it out, seeing what you could do, and it's something that really came from the heart.
Yeah, so I was actually studying a design course at the time, and I had the opportunity 6 months to work on anything I liked, and this was the time grandma was struggling, so I thought if nothing else it was a good excuse to go and see a bit more of her and see if I could help. But yeah, I spoke to psychologists to understand why many with dementia struggle with drinking. Perhaps they don't feel thirst, don't equate drinking with quenching thirst, don't recognise cups, or maybe lack the dexterity to use them. And I observed a lot of that in grandma's care home, but I also realised, generally people would ignore me, which is fair enough. But if I had some sweets on me, then, everyone's your best friend. You want to have a conversation and taking a handful.
Jelly Drops was the way in.
Basically, yeah. So if I could create a hydration sweet, then, it's a great social prop. It's a good way to speak to people and, brighten up people's day.
That's it. And I think that's what I really like about it. It's nothing too techy about it. It's like the simplicity of the product. And it's a really nice talking point, because living with dementia does seem to be, there is a trouble with hydration, and it does need innovation in that area. Why do you think the elderly care sector, more than ever, needs innovation?
Well, I think there's certainly a lot of challenges in general, ageing populations, strains on care sectors, care services. I think, there's a lot of challenges I found in the care home that are really often basic challenges that really impact people's quality of life, and if you can just approach them slightly differently, you can really have a huge impact and benefit them. So I think an innovative approach definitely helps there, and I also think a lot of things perhaps I saw in grandma's care home that seek to support in various ways, perhaps cranes to lift people out of chairs, bibs and sippy cups. Sometimes they lack the sort of sometimes maybe a bit demeaning, and grandma wouldn't really like them to be used with her. I wouldn't like to use them. So I think a sort of more innovative approach to the social side of how we approach some of these issues as well can really be sort of night and day in terms of how effective they are.
Definitely, and I think that's where colour is so important, isn't it? Because when you talk about hoists or stair lifts, they're not really jazzed up.
No, you wouldn't want to sort of use them yourself, and other products, perhaps more like nutritional products, you often don't share them with a loved one or with someone in your care, and I think that sharing element, that social side of it, that sort of inclusive side of it, I think, is a really important way to, I guess, sort of bring people closer together in those environments.
Love that. That's great. So your story about your grandma Pat is what sort of was the driver behind it, and she was someone that living with dementia, and so that was where the jelly drops were primarily aimed at. But then, how did you make it inclusive for all elderly? And then, aside from that, how did you make it inclusive for everyone?
Yeah, well, I think, from the insights, sort of just discussing around sort of really wanting jelly drops to be stigma-free, essentially. Really they're sweets that anyone can enjoy. They just happen to be designed for people with dementia in mind, and that's important for them to be a sort of social prop that you'd want to share with anyone. And they're based essentially on these universal design principles that mean they're sort of intuitive, engaging, the fun, bright flavours. Often people aren't necessarily even eating them to become hydrated, they're just eating them because they're a nice thing to eat. So I guess because we've taken that approach, and also the branding is very much sort of fun, engaging, sweet-like, doesn't look out of place in a care home, lounge, your own room, your own home, hospital ward even. Taking that sort of universal approach has meant a lot of other people that have seen the product have also seen how they could benefit from it. So, we have customers that are perhaps older in general, not living with dementia, but also kids, people with autism, people with learning difficulties, people going through chemotherapy, Parkinson's. There's many other reasons why people struggle with hydration, and taking the approach we have to sort of reduce the social barriers around it, I think has helped sort of give it life in it to help other people too.
Yeah, I guess you're finding out new ways in which it's helping people all the time, which is really great as well. Yeah, because you must have loads of case studies where maybe it is learning difficulties, autism, or something like that, where you're going, well, actually, this is far-ranging, which is really exciting. It must be really cool to start with like one particular problem to solve that's really personal to you, and then seeing it like flower for all these different people.
Definitely. I mean, the issue with dehydration and dementia was new to me until it affected Grandma, but through developing jelly drops, we've come to realise that it affects a lot of other people as well, and it's great really hearing so many people enjoy the product as much as Grandma did, and in all these contexts we didn't even think about before. And we have those stories from a sort of direct to consumer focus, but also going to care homes or even NHS trusts where there's a whole variety of people in those settings. Typically we might start working with a dementia ward, but soon it gets picked up elsewhere in the hospital, and it's amazing to sort of see how the impact can be spread to people we hadn't really originally anticipated it could support.
Nothing better than jelly, I suppose. That's the lesson I take away from it.
Yeah, certainly. I think often actually from a sort of the branding side of things, it's inclusive, but also just physically, I guess I mentioned a few early on, but it's vegan, it's gluten-free, it's natural flavours, non-artificial colours. These sort of factors also mean it can, go beyond sort of cultural barriers that typically affect other food products as well. So we've certainly taken that approach like across the board, and that's, really sort of, helped it have that broader impact.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think the branding side of it is incredibly important. I think that's something we endeavour to do here at Lottie as well. I mean, the pinkness is obvious, but I think we try to emanate pink in everything because it brings a new flavour to elderly care, and I can really see the parallels with jelly drops as well, because essentially all you want is just to inject some more life into it, a bit more fun, a bit more joy. And so, I appreciate you doing that. It's really exciting. Moving to a different line of questioning now, I'm going to talk about your age. I hope that's okay. You were just featured in Forbes 30 Under 30.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Well done, first of all.
Very grateful. It's amazing to be on that list with so many other amazing people. And I saw Lottie's co-founder also featured, which is fantastic. I mean, a huge honour, and great validation of all the amazing work the team's done over the last 6 or so years. But very proud. Yeah,
you were 24 when you came up with jelly drops?
23,
23?
Yeah.
Wow. So I don't even think I was properly working at 23.
Well, no, I was at university.
Yeah, true. So you were 23 when you came up with the idea of jelly drops, and you started testing it, creating it, doing research with psychologists and all that sort of thing. So at the age of 23, what was it like being an innovator in an elderly care space? Was that weird?
I never felt it was weird. A lot of care staff are of that age as well, and your grandchild going to visit grandmas in care homes, grandfathers, pretty typical. So Yeah, I always felt very sort of at home, and I think throughout working with that sector and meeting people in that sector, we have a shared mission. It's incredible to work with so many people that are dedicated to improving the lives of older people. So I think it's been extremely. It's been a privilege, really. But yeah, I wouldn't say my age as such has really sort of come into my thinking too much about it.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's important as well, because I think that also sends a message that it's not just up to the people that are going through this to fix it in a way, because elderly care does need help, and it does need help from young innovators, people willing to find and test new things. So yeah, I feel that's really important. Now you're older. I actually don't know how old.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. 25. 25. Now you're 29. I was wondering, what advice would you give your younger self at 23 now?
Yeah, I think perhaps sometimes go slow to go fast. When I initially developed Jelly Drops, it was very much with the goal of supporting grandma. Didn't necessarily think it could, didn't have any indications from anywhere else how far it could go. But when I put a video of grandma eating the Jelly Drops online, I applied for an award, basically. Someone took that video, put it online, put it on Facebook. Within a few weeks, had 100 million views. It went all around the world, and I was, still making my student kitchen.
You blew up, Lewis.
Yeah, I had like 10,000 people sort of sign up to a waiting list
Wow.
around the world, half of them in North America, which was amazing validation of the concept. But
Yeah.
it was quite a lot of pressure at that point to get the product to people. Very much appreciating a lot of people wanted it
Soon.
now.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of pressure, and there's a lot to achieve to actually get it out into the world. So worked very hard to do that as quickly as possible. But sometimes it pays to sort of not be working flat out all the time. So definitely think I've got a good balance overall. But it's good to remind yourself to sort of slow down a bit to eventually reach your goals even quicker.
Yeah, definitely. I think going from, people talk about how difficult it is to go from 0 to 1 in business, don't they? They say that that's the hardest bit. But to go from 0 to, what was it, 10,000 views? Or
Well, 100 million.
100 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 0 to something.
Yeah.
That's quite impressive. I think that's amazing, and that's what resonates. It captures people's imaginations, and I guess that's the brand in a way.
I think the simplicity
Yeah.
of the product, really helps. It's everyone can relate to enjoying some sweets, and you can
Definitely.
often, I guess, probably the most common comment was, "Why has this not been done before?"
Yeah.
And there was a lot of technical innovation that had to go. It looks simple, but actually to create a product that has all the attributes of Jelly Drops, we worked with some incredibly clever people in food science and patents. We have to develop our own production process. We have to build our own factory to produce it because
Cool.
it's so unique. So there were certainly a number of challenges, but I guess the concept is very simple, so it helps sort of it resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of it does come back to that sort of brand piece we were talking about. What to you makes a brand exciting? What is it that makes a brand exciting?
I think a clear mission
Yeah.
with sincerity is incredibly powerful, and if it can be simple, I'm not just describing Jelly Drops, but if it can be simple, if it can be simple and have sort of that universal, inclusive approach, I think that's a very powerful combination. And I think not just in brands, but in every aspect of design, you see a lot in sort of architecture and all sorts where one approach can serve a variety of people in many different ways, but be sort of equally valuable to all of them. And I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, and it all comes from that mission as well, doesn't it? And that's something I notice a lot in Lottie and Will and Chris, our co-founders. That endeavour to help people understand, find, and fund care is the base. Mm-hmm. That will always be the brand, and then whatever happens out of that is just the excitement. It's just that endeavor to make things better, to help people understand it better. So I just think you get that mostly in working in such a what do you call it? An aspirational industry looking to change things. Whereas if you're working maybe in a different sphere like finance, it's a bit more difficult to find that excitement.
I imagine Lottie, sorry, not Lottie, Jelly Drops. Jelly Drops was my first job out of uni. So I did do, my background before that was civil engineering, and I think definitely, really loved that. And you can do fantastic things in civil engineering. But I went and did a postgrad because there was more freedom to, take those skills elsewhere and look at, sort of closer to home, sort of impactful things that you could do. And it certainly felt sort of being able to dedicate to yourself to something like that was, a really exciting thing to do, and definitely helps sort of move things forward.
I think that's really cool. Like to jump from civil engineering is very different. I mean, there are transferable skills for sure, but it's still a big leap. So I guess that leads well into my next question, which is say Jelly Drops never existed, never happened, gone, banned from the ether. What would you be doing? What would Lewis Hornby be doing?
I've always liked making stuff, I guess. So when I did do that postgraduate course, it was called Innovation Design Engineering, and you could essentially do whatever you like. You could work on sort of anything that was, you thought it was impactful. And actually, whilst developing Jelly Drops, I had previously in the term before developed an urban air pollution cleaning startup with a couple of other co-founders, and we were actually launching that as I was developing Jelly Drops. So that company is still going. I quickly realised having two startups wasn't a very good idea, so I dedicated myself to Jelly Drops when I graduated. But we got a number of awards and partnerships, and I'm glad to say that company's going very well too.
That's great.
But potentially I'd be doing that if I hadn't been working on Jelly Drops.
I mean, it's amazing to work on two things that are looking to improve people's lives in a completely different respect as well, in a completely different industry.
Yeah, that's perhaps a bit closer to my civil engineering background, and this was more, I guess, personal to me, and I really wanted to sort of, you can sort of see that in the brand, that, it was very much about me trying to help Grandma, and I almost had that startup sort of, that was the plan after university. Going to university, doing a course like that, there was an opportunity to work on a lot of interesting things, but often, you're not going to have the impact unless you get it out into the world. And I realised, perhaps a startup was the best way of doing that. So certainly sort of set my sights on being able to do that. And then it was just sort of very fortunate that Jelly Drops had the response it did, which meant I could sort of take this forward.
No, I'm really glad you continue doing this, because I think you really do feel the personal touch in it. And I think that is really important. You can always do the other thing in the future. You never know.
Well, they're doing very well.
Yeah, they're doing well. So yeah, you can do that anytime. Where do you see Jelly Drops in the future? Well, where would you like to see them?
Yeah, well, I think there's huge scope. In essence, Jelly Drops are a delivery system almost geared towards hydration at the moment, and they're rooted in sort of the struggles Grandma had and supporting people with dementia, but I guess, as mentioned, there's huge amounts of other people that could benefit from them. So, from where we started, it was delivering hydration. We've already updated it with vitamin boosts to support cognition, immune system, boost energy. But we're looking to develop even more versions of the product to support people in other ways that perhaps struggle with more conventional forms of nutrition and hydration. So certainly broader range of benefits delivered through the format, targeting more people. But unfortunately, often these issues, as we know, aren't specific to the UK, they're global, and we have launched in the US in 2022 and Canada late last year, but plan in future years to sort of continue that international expansion.
That's amazing. That's really exciting. To launch in the US seems like such a big thing. You essentially just want to make super jelly, it sounds like.
I mean, sort of treats, I guess, or engaging formats that support people with essential nutrition.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful mission to continue on and broaden as well. I see a lot of potential in that. Anything else special in the pipeline? New flavors? Anything else crazy?
We do have quite a bit of fun in the we have our own MPD lab, so we do a lot of development in-house. Love that. Which is great.
It's Willy Wonka, Lewis.
It is a bit. My mum was a dentist as well, so it sort of fits. That's why they're sugar-free. But yeah,
she wouldn't have been happy otherwise. She would have just said, no, actually, you've got to take them off the market.
Yeah, literally. For a while you'd have sugar in, but removing the sugar actually allows us to put more water in, so we wouldn't be able to have 95% water if they had sugar in. But no, so we have our own lab. we like to develop loads of new flavors. We had a mojito one a few weeks back, which is very nice. And maybe that will be available in the summer. I'm not sure, but
what's the ABV on the mojito?
This was alcohol free, but it is possible perhaps to put alcohol in. So we'll see. But yeah, in addition to hydration, I guess as mentioned with the benefits, looking to really see where it can go in terms of nutrition as well. So potentially new, completely different products in a similar format available to sort of support there too. But yeah, I guess that's a bit early stage.
No, I love that. I love the experimentation with it as well. I think that's really exciting. I'll come on to something a bit later that will fit into that. But aside from Lottie, whom you obviously love and care deeply about, is there any other brand you would love to collaborate with and do something with? And say it's a dream collaboration, who would it be?
Well, certainly brands like Lottie, sort of empowering people living with dementia, older people caring for others, would be an honour to work with. We have worked with a number of great organisations, Alzheimer's Society, we have a close partnership with. We love going to the local events around us, sort of the community sessions, bringing new products to people there. We are about to work with AARP in the US, so we're really looking forward to that. So spreading our message to older populations over in the US more. And I think just, not only looking to support people with dementia, but also carers and caregivers, people that, have a caring role, work with sort of Carers UK, and would really like to work with Age UK as well to spread our message to a broader, older population.
Amazing, love that. That's really cool. Can you tell us one moment from the moment you started Jelly Drops until now where it made the most impact on you, where you really thought like, this is making a tangible difference?
Well, I think it wasn't quite so much making a difference at that point, but when I had that initial, 100 million views, that was a bit of a shock to the system.
Quite a lot.
It was a long time to get the product out. From that point, it took about 18 months, but we launched in 2020, and actually to see those initial first sort of reviews come back from people and seeing people enjoy the product as much as Gone More was, a really amazing sort of moment and milestone. I think probably the most recent milestone that is sort of brings it home about the level of impact is we're now having over 1 million drops eaten a month. So
that's amazing. It's such a good nugget, such a good stat to have.
It seems pretty incredible considering it's started on my student kitchen table. So 1 million drops a month. I can't even really picture how much that is, but
I can't believe you have a factory. Actually, I'm still wowed over that. Is there any chance I can come for a visit?
Yeah, for sure. It's changed a lot over the years because it has to sort of grow with us. But definitely.
So that idea of delivering 1 million drops is so real, isn't it? That's tangible change, isn't it? That feels amazing.
Well, even considering when we launched, it was a very sort of manual process. Yeah. Now it's much more sophisticated and has the scope to grow much more than 1 million a month as well. So that's the goal. 1 million's a great place to be, but we want to be supporting 1 million people. So 1 drop each isn't going to be enough.
Nice, love to hear that. That's good to hear. You've talked a bit about expanding into the US and Canada, was it? I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about, how hard it is to expand into the US maybe, or maybe how easy. You could tell us how easy it was. But then, and then the sort of differences of having it in the UK and then launching in the US and that sort of thing.
Well, I think one of the major differences is just the size. It's huge, even just geographically, logistics-wise, it's a bit more of a different, it's a bit different. But we've been able to sort of overcome that very well, and we have customers all over the US and Canada, literally every state, which has been really amazing. We have a map where everyone is, which is cool. Pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
I think it's actually been very similar, especially through our D2C channels. Really supporting the loved ones of people living with dementia. Often, people with very similar situations in the US and Canada as they are in the UK, caring for someone like Gone More, who has had similar challenges, and even just the US, I think there's 11 million caregivers, family members caregiving for people living with dementia, and 53 million sort of more broadly. So, a huge number of people that really need support and helping keep their loved ones healthy. So, I guess operationally, there's a few things that we had to figure out, but I guess the impact of the product has been very similar over there.
I love the fact that it always comes back to those living with dementia and wanting to do better for them, and saying, actually, this is something that is a bit of a joy, and it is something that brings a bit of like fun, and it isn't too demeaning. And I love that about Jelly Drops.
I think that is, in essence, really. I would go to visit my grandma in a care home often, and even with all the will in the world, if someone doesn't know or understand how you're trying to support them with hydration, it can be very, very challenging to encourage them to drink, and often quite frustrating for the person you're trying to help. It can take hours of literally sitting with them trying to get them to drink a glass of water. So I think really flipping that on its head, going from potentially the most frustrating part of the day for people to being the highlight of the day, and really a conversation starter. Do you want a sweet? I think that's a very sort of important aspect of it beyond just the level of hydration that's delivered.
Yeah, definitely. I've got one final question. And, again, I started with probably my favourite, and I'll end with my favourite. I really want to know, if you could create one flavour that you don't already have, what would it be? I kind of want to put in a drum roll here, but,
Well, I mean, I've already mentioned it. I think the mojito one was pretty good. I think certainly in the summer that would be a nice flavour to have. Alcohol free, but
yeah.
So I'll think, I'll have a chat with sort of MPD team.
Please let me know when you bring it out as well. I'd love to do a taste test in the factory.
Send some over. We've got some samples.
Yeah, please do. If I'm not in the factory before then, send them over. I'll appreciate it. I've actually got a few suggestions for flavours. Yeah. I hope that's all right. And please. All I want you to do, Lewis, is just say yes or no.
Yeah.
And feel free to say yes or no. I won't be offended. But these are flavours I think you should be having right now. Banana daiquiri.
Well,
not convincing.
I would say, we've developed the jelly drops a lot since we launched. Every aspect, the texture, the size, the shape, the flavour, everything's changed, and it's all been driven by our sort of community insights. So, if we've got other people that want the same flavour, then we're
for it.
Yeah. Shall I do a campaign for banana daiquiris?
Yeah.
I mean, what a strange campaign that would be. What about something a bit different? Prawn cocktail.
That's more savoury, is it?
It is, yeah.
Definitely we're not writing anything off, but I think, perhaps would be an interesting texture of the jelly and a prawn sort of...
It would be different.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it would wow people. No. I think it would be a much smaller campaign.
Yeah.
What about barbecue? Again, that sort of features in the same realm, but, you get squeezy barbecue.
Yeah, well, I think, typically we've gone for sort of quite refreshing sort of flavours, more sort of... I guess familiar for people, but that's not to say these won't work, and certainly willing to give anything a trial.
Yeah. And the final one, pesto, because who has time to make pesto? When you have a jelly drop, maybe you can just pop it in.
Pop it into your pesto. Well, maybe as a sort of side missions.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't make any of those flavours. Yeah. You don't lawfully have to. But I just want to thank you so much for joining us today, Lewis. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, learn more about the Jelly Drop story. It's clear you're going to be on to bigger and better things from here, and I'm really excited to see where you go.
Great to meet you too, and thanks very much for having me.
No, and can we keep the Jelly Drops?
Please, yeah.
Lovely. Perfect. Thank you.